Kate. Nice jacket, looking hot. Online, at home. How we feeling? Scale 1 to 10 on that share. Where are you at? How'd everybody share? Give me a 10. It's like, yes. 1's like, fuck you guys. All right, there we go. Look at that. Look at that. That's great. Perfect. In the room, where we have the shares? Great, shitty. Where we at? Great. Scott, was it great? Yeah, everyone's great. You're too fucking happy. You're always happy all the time. I'm going to get you to just be real angry one day. I don't know when it's going to happen. I know. Okay, so how many of you are more clear than you were before we started that drill? Raise your hand. Hands down. How many of you saw just in dialogue and conversation some things open up for you that maybe you hadn't seen an hour and a half ago? Raise your hands. Okay, how many of you saw some things that actually surprised you that showed up for you that you want, that you didn't know you wanted, or they kind of evolved? Raise your hand. How many of you right now are just more confirmed to the thing you kind of already knew, but now it's written down and you talked about it? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you, if you hit the impossible game of business over the next 12 months, this would be a good fucking place to be? Raise your hand. Okay, online, hands the camera if you know you hit this impossible game target of freedom, that you might have the opportunity with cash to be able to solve a whole bunch of other fucking problems in your life that are outside of business. Put your hand to the camera. How many of you see right now that if you can get this business problem to roll and we can get this impossible game, that there are a lot of people here in the room can see that there's some balanced things that could be leveled up by having the cash? Raise your hand. This is like the catch-22 with it all. So we're gonna make some examples. We're gonna start down here, Mike Kottmeyer, and I want you to just share where you are right now. Give us an idea of what impossible looks like for you, heading in at least what you're kind of contemplating right now. Off you go.
So I can tell you like the backstory and everything.
Give them backstory and go.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, so it's interesting because we had a really shitty year. So we ended up at the end of last year, we did about 40 million, dropped about 8 million to the bottom line. And as a sole owner, that's my money, right? And we had saved a bunch of money, lost a big client or about 80% of a big client. And we've been upside down on the year so far, right? So we've been digging out of a hole all year and burning a lot of working capital, stressful as fuck. Yeah, but like best year ever. I've had so much personal growth. I think God came along and said, yeah, you're starting to worship money. Okay, I'm going to take away a big chunk and see how you do, right? So, but I'm standing, right? So it's been a good year. So I'm also very clear for some other work I've been doing this year is that this is not a year for me for targets. It's a year for rest, and it's a year for recovery. It's a year for healing. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to work or I'm not going to do things, because I love what I do and I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a builder, I'm a creator, and that's what I do. So like a big part of my goal is to figure out how to produce at rest. And that probably sounds like it's contradictory, but for me what that means is produce at the highest level but without striving, without being anxious, without being stressed out, right? All that kind of stuff. Because I'm trying to find peace and freedom in my company and fall back in love with being the CEO of that company. And so we have a pretty solid engine as a company. We can do about pretty easy, like going into January next year, we should do about $350,000 a month in profit. And if we push it a little bit, if my team decides that they want to push it, the reasonable goal should be 400. 450, something like that. And then if we got a little bit more aggressive, probably do $500,000 to 600 a month. If we got super crazy, maybe $750,000 to $1 million a month. But the interesting thing for me is that I'm not going to get in the mess of that growth. So when I get out of here, we have a meeting set up with my leadership team. We're going to sit down and we're going to get really clear on what their goals are for their own self-interest and growth. Because I'm convinced at the level we're operating, if they kill it, then I'm going to kill it, right? So my goal next year is going to be to support them in achieving their goals and then make sure that their goals roll up to my goals, right? And then tactically, one of the things I've really been noodling on, and I've never felt comfortable bringing Warrior into my company. So Dennis Stevens, I know you're out there somewhere, pay the fuck attention. What we're going to do is we're going to start running some challenges with my leadership team. There's about 16 high potential people within the company that we're going to start running through some challenges too, because as a consultancy, we do some pretty high-end consulting for Fortune 10, Fortune 100 companies that's all around change. And it's hard to help others change if you're not comfortable with yourself. Like, you can't go into somebody's office and tell them how to run their business differently if you don't have your shit straight at home, right? If you're fat, if you can't control yourself, right? How do you get somebody else to do something that's bigger than what they are if you're not bigger than you need to be? And so I'm very convicted that I'm going to let the company and my people do the company shit, and I'm going to go all in next year on developing the people in my company to just live better lives and be more centered and that kind of stuff. And I think that's going to be really cool for me, because I truly believe that if I focus on being a heart-forward leader, caring about my people's entirety, and let my teams just run the business side of it, because they're all competent, right? They're all really good at what they do. I think we'll win, and I think we'll grow probably bigger than I could have ever possibly imagined. So that's my goal for this year.
How many getting what he's talking about? Put your hand up. There's a totally different angle. So we're not only going to have the money, we're coming backside on elevating the team. Totally different direction. It's like a whole nother level. It's like me out, them in. They're already in, but it's a total refocus. Working with Mike this entire year one-on-one has been fun to watch his evolution just spiritually and mentally as he's continued to make these pivots. This is fucking significant. Like the moves that have been made in the last like 5-6 months. Thank you, the Freedom Protocol and a whole other things we're up to. Thank you, Michael G. Isom. And the rest of us, what we've been up to, have been able to really unlock his brain and help him see some things around this. This is fucking massive. Two clip!
Oh.
Boom, you want to add.
I just have to clear it up. It wasn't my brain you unlocked, it was my heart that you unlocked,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So.
Well, he came in the process with me last year. Our big focus this entire year has been what?
Well, when we started to engage, we had done 40 million, and I was like, okay, we're going to go to 60, we're going to get 80, we're going to 100. I had a 3-year plan, grow to 100 million, exit at 300 million. And then it just started sucking my soul out of me. It's just like, I just didn't want to be 52. And, you know, that much money sounds like a lot of money, but do the numbers on it. There's no fucking way to spend $300 million. There just isn't. Maybe you guys are better at it than I am, but in my lifestyle, no fucking way. So I'm like, what the fuck am I working for? I got no interest in that at this point. I want to grow, connect. I want to lead. I want to do great things in the industry, love my company, love my people. And so, not quite ready yet. We'll see. Give it another year or two, but we'll see. Yeah.
Mike's actually moving into a place with us next year. So into 2023, he'll be one of the council coaches. So Warrior Council into next year. He's going to be one of our trainers on the team. Fucking elite at what he does in business. Fucking assassin. So beautiful job. Scott, give it to us. Impossible.
So impossible for me, really just the culmination of like the last 3 years, right? So being led to come here, being led to start Enlight Health from a stack, right? So I've been in the software as a service game for 20 plus years. You know, sometimes the smartest guy in the room with Fortune 50 groups, advising them on how to engage consumers, scale, like all of those things. And, you know, coming through, having that stack, and literally understanding the investment required in me, first and foremost, to be able to even unlock the concepts and what I'm actually going to be doing next week, right? Going to Toronto, possibly getting a strategic license deal, getting acquired potentially in the next 6 months for 9 figures. Completely mind-blowing, starting with a stack, okay? A lot of the things that we've been talking about here, about you hear something, you see something, you fucking move. Or like I like to work with you on is send it, right?
Yeah.
And you know, when you know those moments where you need to invest, you know those moments where you need to double down. And in this case, for the past 2 years during COVID, and obviously, you know, Enlight Health, we're a digital front door platform for big healthcare, right? So iOS, Android, and web for big healthcare providers across the US, right? So anytime you're at your hospital, you have a mobile, you got a web instance, like we're basically that front door. And so those guys, their budgets for the past 2 years have been diverted, right? They've been hair on fire. Dr. Fedora, obviously, you know what I'm talking about with the telehealth piece and people scrambling digitally to connect, right, for people that need care. And so now we're seeing this huge, huge pipeline just starting to develop because now those budgets are unlocked. For 2 years, we didn't have a license deal, but we had one of the top 5 systems in the country. We had many other ones that were small, and I kept hearing the voice, invest, 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 millions of dollars into the platform. And now it's all coming back and being repaid, right? But this journey that I've been on with you for the past year and other brothers that are actually in this room, it's all about understanding my value. So I finally have started to understand my true value and show up as that man inside of those conversations with customers about them, not about me. Not about my product features, but about them and how I'm helping them. And so the reality is, hey, look, I've built a sustainable organization. I've built a sustainable product. And guess what? I win with that. If we get funding, I win with that. If I get taken out, I win with that. It's about coming up with that strategy of, fuck what happens, I'm going to win here, here, and here. So I'm thankful to be in that place, right? Now with that, obviously, look, I still need to continue pushing myself. Like these things, these unicorn opportunities aren't going to happen. Going to keep driving, going to keep innovating, going to keep creating, going to keep pushing. So it's fun to be in this space.
So impossible for you would be 12 months from now, what would happen?
12 months from now, impossible would be exiting 9 figures, right?
Just stop.
Doesn't sound very impossible, man.
Just stop. Just right there. Yeah. This thing you've been pushing for a year. And Mike will be back in that place again if you choose to be. Fell back in love with his business. We talked about this too before you started. It's like you might find out that you're going to fall in love with it and you can take on partners. You can do a lot of different things. It just gets different as it gets closer and closer and closer. Big push. Big push. You guys getting this? Raise your hand if you're getting this. Different thought process. So we had a couple virtual. You got to see some examples. We're starting to see something, individuals obviously much more down the road in the entrepreneurial space. Different conversations, different dialogues. Warrior has the ability to hit and lead at every level, whether you're at Warrior Launch or you're in counsel, you're sitting in mentorship with me, whatever the game is, there's a path that opens up based upon what level you can actually play at now, and then it gives you targets to be able to see. And eventually we get to a place where Mike's stepping into, and I'm stepping into here in a second, where you get to a level where you produce at a certain level. Now the thing you want to do is get back. And you come back onto the team as a trainer, which is fantastic. So let's go. Kevin, give it to us.
So my name is Kevin Ward. I train real estate agents how to have a more profitable business and a more prosperous life. Just quick backstory, I started 10 years ago in April. 6 months later, I ran out of money because I'd quit my job. And I ended up, 10 years ago right now, renting a bedroom, unfurnished, in an old run-down apartment complex in Los Angeles and sleeping on an air mattress. I did that for 8 months while I built this company. About 6 years later, I hit 7 figures, made my first $1 million. And then in 2019, I hit 2 million. And then 2020, I hit 2 million. And then 2021, I hit 2 million. And then I'm like, okay, this isn't working. We're not growing anymore. So I hired a wrecking ball to come in, named Garrett J. White, to come in and help me break off this $2 million plateau that we were stuck on. Because we're stuck. How do we go to the next level? So what we did this year was we completely recalibrated my business. We got rid of my low-ticket stuff because I did a lot of low-ticket. And we changed my high-ticket from $15,000 to our primary ticket is $30,000. That's not our high ticket. Our primary ticket is $30,000 for a group coaching program. And so we just changed everything, and then real estate got smashed in the face with interest rates going from 2.7 to over 7% this year. And the other part of the wrecking ball was we had to look at the stuff in my business that was not working. One of the things that was not working was I was married to my CEO. We'd been partners for the last 8 years. Julie, my wife, had become the CEO of the company, and we had a business being run with 2 heads. And if we did not get unanimous consent and approval on every big decision, then it didn't happen. And so that was one of the big problems. And so 3 months ago, I removed my wife from the completely from the company. We knew that in January it was coming. When Garrett and I first started working together, he's like, so we're looking to the business, and he goes like, how's that working? It's not working. He goes like, well, what are you gonna do about it? And I'm like, I don't know. It took me 7 months to get the courage up and to face the truth and to save my marriage and to grow the business. I've got to make this most difficult decision I've ever made in my life. And so, so we did that.
Pause. Some of you motherfuckers are struggling with date nights. This man, to liberate his marriage, had to make a business move to liberate the business and the marriage. How many of you have a business that you co-run with your partner? Raise your hand. How many of you know this can be very, very difficult? Raise your hand. How many of you don't have a partner that you sleep with that is not in business, but you can imagine that if the person you slept with was also your day-to-day business partner, this might be really fucking complicated? How many of you can see that you could make business moves in the day that have you not getting fucked for 2 weeks? Legit.
2.5 months.
Like the kind of fucking moves that we make around here, they come with consequences. The biggest challenge all of you have is the fact that there's a certain level you're being asked to go, but there's a line at which you draw, I will not pay that price to obtain that outcome. And that's okay. Then stop asking for the outcome. Just settle into the fact that you're not willing to pay the price required for admission. This is hard. And if we're not careful, there's a large piece of our brain that fantasizes about having certain results in money and business. We fantasize about it. But in the end, if we look at our actions and our behaviors, there are some things we just will not do. This was one of the hardest decisions you had to make all year. How many of you know if you had to fire your wife, this might be the hardest decision you made all year? Fucking intense, because it wasn't just business was on the line. The business needed a change. But there was also an impact on the marriage. What was the impact on the marriage with the fact that Julie was constantly in the business? What was happening in the relationship?
Well, so we couldn't separate. We couldn't separate business from personal. So I was sleeping with my business partner, with the CEO of the company, and you want to talk about business in bed. She knew I did not want to talk about it, so she then started just suppressing, and we stopped having business conversations anytime. And so the intimacy was there was just this underlying tension. Now, she was okay with it. She felt like it was just part of it. But part of it was that she was okay with having sex twice a month. I was not. I like twice a day better. And
how many of you can agree with that one? Okay, good. At least you're not alone.
Yeah, so my first marriage ended with me having an affair because I like sex twice a day, more than twice a month. And I did not want to go back there. And I'm like, I am at this point vulnerable. I moved out from home office for the first time at the beginning of this year, when I started working with Garrett. I think the most important thing to understand is that my impossible game was impossible because my reality was so fucked up. The reality of where I was like I was aiming for an impossible game that was impossible from this reality, because your reality where you are right now is the foundation on which you're going to build the impossible game. And I had to undo so much shit in the recurrent reality, which was the CEO of my company, which normally you could just fire the CEO and replace him. Problem was I was married to the CEO and she didn't want to be replaced. But there was no way for me to build the impossible game in my marriage. I could not be married. I wanted a wife. I did not want her to be my business partner. I wanted her to be my wife. And so long term, to save my marriage, to have the kind of marriage, this is my third marriage. And I'm like, fuck it if I'm going to go to a fourth. I could, but I don't want to. This is the woman I want to be with, but I want to be with her as my wife. So the amount of things we had to undo, and when I first found you 4 or 5 years ago, it was like I knew I needed to hire him, but I knew my wife would not like it. And so had to have unanimous consent and approval for me to make a decision like that. So for 4 years, I did not hire him. And when I hired him first to join King's Council, which was the mastermind, and I was like, okay, I like this. And then I'm like, I need one-on-one. I paid for the entire year's investment in my first 30 days with him.
But the thing we're really after is Hero Ranch. And the thing we're after is having a woman that you love sitting beside you on the deck of that ranch, because who gives a fuck if you get the ranch if you have a woman in a box. So just breathe with it. Like, I want you to understand, like, the men that get up on this stage have done hard shit. Like, you can hear the quick rundown by Satema, AZ, Raul, Sean, Matt Edmondson, who's up. You can hear these men talk about this, but the part that you never see is the fucking dark they had to walk through to get to the power they stand in. Nobody really was talking about that. It's easy. Clappy, 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 clappy. So beautiful, so beautiful. Yet there's this fucking pit we have to walk into to bring the game back. And there's an intertwined situation, many of us, that the breakthrough for your marriage comes through the business, and the breakthrough for your business comes through your marriage. It's just kind of back and forth. So I'm going to pause right there. I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to come back to you in a bit. Michael, Impossible Games, let's go.
I want to run through reasonable and then go to radical and just kind of take you through an evolution.
Perfect, go for it.
So reasonable for me this next year would be to increase my King's cash up to 1.8 million. Lifestyle for my wife Wendy and I would be that 1 week a month we would start participating in running Freedom Protocol, that my current lifestyle would allow for that. And we would increase money to our vaults up to $400,000 at the end of the year. By end of the fourth quarter 2023, we'll have secured our own facility to run the Freedom Protocol full time, meaning the facility would be running full time. Frames would be built, tested, refined in the processes. And it's super exciting for me and fulfilling with these results. My assistant, who's been with me now for 10 years, and she was 23 when she started working for me. She bought her first home with me. She got married. She had her first baby, and she's now pregnant with her second. So it's super exciting. And that's a goal of hers to get to that dollar amount. So I would want that to happen by the end of next year. So we'd take that reasonable and we'd go to radical, and that radical would increase to 2 million. And I'm running Vault AIS, but only meeting with the top 5% clients 1 week a month. And 3 weeks a month, I would be in running the Freedom Protocol with my heart wide open. And that's an incredible feeling because I've felt that. I've been testing that. Garrett and I would own our own facility 100%, and it would immediately be netting each of us $2 million a year. The results are immeasurable for the men and their families as a result at this time.
If you have been impacted by the Freedom Protocol, you know who I'm talking about. Stand up. For those that are standing up, how many of you can clearly see Michael Isom? You're almost there, Matt. You're coming. Your turn's coming. You got it. You're like on the roster. You two are on the roster. Stand up. You're going to 3 weeks. How many of you can see Michael Isom doing this? Raise your hand. Give him 2 hands up if you see this shit. Some of you don't even know what the Freedom Protocol is. You already fucking know. You're like, whatever it is, it sounds like something Michael should do. Right? Over in the corner, you see we have 2 powerful women sitting in the corner, been just watching the whole time, Deanna and Wendy. These 2 women are part of Freedom Protocol with us. Wendy, you see this? You feel this? Yeah, you 2 created this, not me. I'm just here to support it. Beautiful, have a seat.
Thank you.
We've been hunting down this. Mike, how much time we spent in like just the last 10 years? We're just trying to get to this place.
Immeasurable amounts of
It's
time.
so much fucking time. From one-on-one time to we've been in and out of one-on-one relationships. We've been best friends, good friends, all in the mix, business parts of masterminds, empire groups. How many empire groups you've probably attended? Just like the groups like this. How many events in 10 years?
Hundreds.
I mean, crazy the number of time commitment. And finally, at this point, how old are you?
51.
Is that good-looking 51-year-old right there? That's a fucking good-looking 50-year-old. Finally stepping.
I'm not taking my shirt off either.
Yeah, it's all good. Barlow's pissed now. He wants to take his shirt off.
But he could.
He could take it off. This piece, you've been working this entire time. Kevin, this is exact shit I'm talking about. Scott, this is exactly what we've been working on. We didn't talk about all the rest of it. We're not going to right now. But everything you have been fighting for and the pieces you have been separating from, and Mike, everything you came in looking for, all of this was with one fucking intention: get you to a place to do what you've been called to do while prospering and being fucking wealthy doing it. Both. And there's no possible way that you can do this if you don't have it all with you. If you don't have it all with you, it doesn't matter. If you don't have it all. Matt, this is why we had to play the games we had to play. Like all of this. You guys are playing hard in on these games. Hans, these are the moves we're having to make. Brandon, these are moves we're having to make. Patrick, moves we're having to make. Phil, you're having to make a ton of fucking moves to be able to put yourself in a position to be able to experience the ultimate freedom that you want. It's not just money. But the marriage you want, the family you want, and the life that you want will be fueled by the business that you built. The marriage that you want, the family that you want, and the life that you want will be fueled by the business that you built. Chad.
So I want to give my impossible game first, and then I want to backfill it with how that's relevant to what we're all sitting up here talking about. And that is, I own a steel company. Each facility that we have when it's running at maximum capacity throws off a revenue number of about 10 million, and we run right at 32 to 36% profit for the facility at that number. Right now, we have a facility in New Orleans and a facility in Huntsville, Alabama, and we have an affiliate facility in McAllen, Texas. So with that impossible game, we would like to, where we have on the map, to open up a new facility, one per quarter next year. So if you run the numbers down, there's the affiliate, I'm not going to count in this number. There's 2 corporate facilities now that exist that are actually operating and running, not at capacity, but running. New Orleans is at capacity, but not Huntsville. Then you add the other 4 facilities to it. That's 6 facilities. You do the math, simple math, throwing off $10 million apiece. That's $60 million for the impossible game for next year. They're not all going to be running at capacity, so I pulled it back to an impossible realistic number of about $40 million between the 6 facilities. I rattle these numbers off quickly because you have to understand that in April, when I left April of this year, I left Shield and stepped into council. And in that interview, Garrett was drawing out my financial picture in my life. How many facilities do you think were opened in April?
0.
We live by a code here. I'm telling you the truth. There were no facilities open. There was not even a company. The name of the company is Dominion USA, Inc. It didn't exist in April. But the sweat, blood, and tears that gave me the skills, mindset, and capacity to be the expert in the technology in the United States since 2016, since I've been getting my ass kicked in that field, and I walked away from that business 4 different times. Garrett saw it, but I was missing one thing to make it a reality. I was missing a connection to myself, missing me. I didn't know me, which meant I didn't know God. I knew him, surface level, but not in a level where I could make the kind of decisions we've made over the past 5 months to put 2 facilities on the map in 2 different cities, with an affiliate in another city with 4 more opening next year, where the manufacturer of the technology is now in line to come in as a strategic partner and throw machines at us to get the facilities open. Like, that is the warrior time warp. That shit is real, and it's not me. I'm not special. I'm just willing. It's off the heels of me submitting and submitting and submitting and submitting. That brought me to the point where I've never texted Garrett since I've been in council. We have his cell phone number. I don't text him. I'm not breaking that protocol. It's not my place to text him. But a week ago, I shot him a text of a stack and some freedom verbiage that I wanted him to see. I felt called to send it to him. I sent it to him. The response I got a week ago was, what would open up for Chad and his life if you ran with me for the next 14 months? I'm like, fuck, it's not even on my radar. What is this? I go to my wife. said, hey, you know, and my wife's extremely scarcity mind-driven. The way she was raised, her mindset is just complete scarcity. She's a school teacher, makes $62,000 a year. So she's not the first to jump on board with a large investment in coaching. So knowing that I could go talk to my wife about this large investment and I would probably get the out that I'm looking for to tell him, no, thank you, not yet. I go to my wife and I said, hey, look, this Garrett shot this text back. I didn't expect him to even answer me. It's X amount of dollars. What do you think? She's like, well, everything you've done in Warriors so far has changed your life, your daughter's lives, and my life. So what are you waiting on? I'm like, I said, you gotta be fucking kidding me. What? So here we are, and all of that, everything I just told you, there are about 6 or 7 men in this room in council that witnessed all of this happen in real time. From my daughter, Chuck, from my daughter, you know, me putting her out of the house, which I talked about earlier, and for me getting past that, letting that go, coming to terms with the light inside of that. There is light inside of my grandson's murder and my daughter's accident. And it's revealing itself, and it's allowed me to step into this new frame now with these men. I'm a client of Michael Isom's now. We're building a vault. It's done. My wife's protected off of the insurance he's provided. All these things are in place now where I can step into that game with him and see where this goes. But it all started with stepping into the frame of letting go and submitting to God. That's it.
Like there's a moment to go, and then inside the moment to go, there's you being willing to do what's required inside of the moment to go. Look at all the decisions I had to make. There has to be a decision to receive, then there has to be a decision to go, and then there has to be a decision to continue to go until you win. That could be a lot of decisions. And in most cases, this is a day-to-day game. This is okay, I got to go again. I'm going 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 to go again. I need to go again. I need to go again. I need to go again. Oftentimes, the challenge is the fact that you'll go, but you just won't keep going. Or you go, but you don't go in a manner that allows you to continue to go with guidance. Men around you, this is guidance. How many of you are getting guidance just being in these conversations with each other? Raise your hand. And here's what I know. If you sat at home and you try to do this by yourself, it's not the same at all. If you don't have other men to dialogue with, it's not the same. It doesn't mean you can't create great shit. It doesn't mean you can't progress and move forward. It's just not the same. And the output doesn't stay the same. At this point in the game, you're all looking for something that is exponential. This is what I was looking for, exponential creation. How do I exponentially create versus just being in a situation by myself without collaboration? How do I create this? How do I connect? This requires you to let go, and it requires you to lead. So we're going to do this. You just heard them share. They gave you some insights and ideas on what they're doing, what they're up to. You're going to get 2 other men in the room, get into a tripod virtually. Virtually, we're going to put you in a breakout group for 4 minutes. Inside that 4 minutes, you're going to have a talk also. What are you guys taking? Just listen to these 5, line it up. They gave you examples of where they're going, things they're doing. What are you seeing? What are you feeling from it? You got 4 minutes on this. You're just going to dialogue. Talk about it in a group. What are you seeing? What are you getting from what you just heard them go through? This was another example. Our virtual examples were one example. We got another level of example. It's happening here on the stage. Different examples, men at different places economically and what they're doing in business. If you're clear about where we're going virtually, type in the word clear into the chat so I know you're clear. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. In my room, on your feet, get 2 buddies, let's go. Stage, you guys are amazing. Get the fuck out of here. Go hang out with somebody else. All right, my home audience. You guys feeling the intensity of this? Give me a hell yes in the chat if you're feeling this. Give me a hell yes in the chat if you're feeling this. We got a lot going on. Peter Walcom, Jeff Kepler, Danny DeVires, Teddy Garcia, Preston Pugmire, Preston's hanging out with his son. What's up, Preston, your son? You got a young rock star now. That's right. That's what young boys, young men do. I didn't call you a boy. Flexing. Flex it. I love it. Bobby Woodman, what's going on? Hugh Butler, Stephen Ocean, Sean Fiddick, Andrew Johnson, Matt Cordell, Michael Humphreys, Luis Martinez, making a little dinner while we're on the video. What's up, bud? I love it. Eddie Story, what's going on? All right, gentlemen, here's the deal. We have been in a place today and yesterday of a lot of new distinctions and decisions in our minds. A lot of new ways of seeing things. A lot of new ways of considering things. How many of you right now at a home group with us, our home team, how many of you are currently seeing things from a different place than you did this morning when we started, particularly around the conversation of business and money? Put your hand to the camera for me if you got this. Now, hands down for a second. How many of you can also see that there are some pathways that if you have the courage to go after them, there are some pathways that could radically open up your life in the next 12 to 14 months if you just took on the path of going and doing whatever's required to go get those targets? Hands to the camera.